I wanted to ask you about the running game. You had 319 rushing yards at Baylor and 291 against Oklahoma State. How pleased have you been with the rushing production as of late, and what do you attribute that increase to?
Well, obviously pleased with it. I attribute it to the fact that we're getting better. I think our offensive line has a big role in that. Alex has a big role in that, but so does everybody else. I think we've improved. We've gotten better. Offensive line's gotten better. They work well together. Yeah, nothing more than that, I don't think.
Well, the second part to the question, Oklahoma State had the #1 rush defense in the league at the time. How do you continue that success against the Sooners, who have also been good at stopping a run so far in Big 12 play?
Say, how do we do it?
Yeah, how do you go about doing that?
Well, again, as I've said, so many times, it's important for us to have balance. Now we've gotten some yardage without being highly effective throwing the football, but against the really significant, I say significant, all teams are significant, but against the really good defensive football teams, it's pretty hard, or against any football team, let me put it that way. It's pretty hard to be, totally one-sided, and if we can't throw the ball, then you can put all 11 guys up there, and it's pretty hard to run it. So, we've got to have the capacity to be able to throw the ball and throw it effectively as well. And that would be our attempt. We don't always succeed at it, but that would be our attempt, game after game, regardless who we play.
If I can ask one other one, Oklahoma had won 39 straight home games, the 5th longest home streak in the modern era of football between 2005 and 2011. And then early in 2012, K-State won 24-19 in Norman. And then Oklahoma has won 51 of 54 Big 12 home games when K-State visited in 2014, and K-State left with a 31-30 victory in Norman. Do you share with your team these achievements by previous K-State teams as a motivational tool this week, saying yes, it's been done, it can be done again?
Well, we've mentioned a number of different things, not necessarily in the way that you phrase it, but I'm not one to fortify all the thoughts that we're a 1,000-point underdog. I mean, as I try to share with our players, and I believe in it sincerely, it's not about who we play, it's about us. And if we prepare well and play as well as we prepare, then it doesn't make any difference who you play. You've always got a chance, and a good chance, and that's that's kind of our approach. Now, I won't say, number one, they're aware of anything that they do the same research that you do, almost anyway. And so, they are aware of, a number of different things that would say, okay, there's that chance. But, I want them to understand that, it's, once again, it's not as though, it's not as though you don't have a chance. It's not as though it's only a chance. It's just, it goes back to the same thing as I said, prepare well and play as well as you prepare, and you got a chance no matter who you will be competitive with anybody you play.
Coach, this is the deepest into a season that K-State's gone since 2004 without stringing together consecutive victories. And in 2004, no consecutive victories came together. How crucial is it to come into this week and build upon beating Oklahoma State, for the back half of the season, getting that confidence of putting together those consecutive victories?
Well, it's not. That's not significant to me. I'd like for it to be 11 consecutive or 12 consecutive, whatever the case is. But I don't spend any time thinking about whether we've won consecutive ball games or not, or lost consecutive ball games. I just know that we're, whatever we are, 3-4, and that's not where we need to be or want to be.
Do you think it could increase this team's confidence, just building upon that win, like I said?
Well, I would think, yeah, we're in a position now, having lost 4 ball games. I think it's it's a boost any time that you win, regardless of who you happen to play against. But considering it's a highly ranked football team and a very competent football team, very good football team, yeah, I think that certainly goes without saying. That'd help.
Kind of along the same lines, Coach, how much did a win seem to affect the confidence, energy level of the team in the last week plus?
I think they're beyond it right now. I think, after the ball game, obviously they were highly excited, and that carried through over the weekend and into the first part of the week. But I think that's beyond them. It's, once again, you get to the point where, we're people look at it as though it's the drudges of college football, and that's not where we are. That's not who we are. I mean, we're a team that, again, as I've just been repetitive, but if we practice well and we play as well as we practice, then you're in any and every ball game you play.
Also, just on Oklahoma, I know earlier in the year you were very concerned with Will Greer's ability to scramble. How high up the list of concerns is Kyler Murray's legs?
He's an amazing player. He truly is. I mean, if you, well, I'm sure you've seen something of him, but if you sit down and watch him on tape, I mean, he is really excellent player. He's got such great quickness, for that position. We play a lot of guys that have good quickness, etc. But I mean, he's got for that position exceptional quickness. And it's amazing being 5'10" if he's that tall. His completing 71% of his passes in this conference, and having Ohio State on their schedule. I mean, they're really he's an excellent quarterback. He can stand in there and find his throwing lanes and is accurate on his throws and throws a firm ball, and then you put all the capacity to run the football and then the capacity to be able to scramble, as well as he does, and keep the ball alive. And I mean, he's awfully good player and awfully quick.
Army and Oklahoma played a pretty interesting game this year where Army took an overtime, possessing the ball something like 45 plus minutes in the game. When you see that and what Oklahoma is capable of on offense, does that trigger to you that time of possession is maybe more important than usual in this kind of game?
Well, possession time has always been. I mean, that's why the crowd goes 4, 3, 2, 1, is because we utilize the clock. And the advantage of utilizing the clock for us is that our defense doesn't have to be on the field, and when our defense is not on the field, then the opponent's far less likely to score. The fewer snaps that your defense has to take, probably in most cases, is probably an advantage for you. Army, it was just interesting, and watching the ball game, as you indicated, Army had 40 minutes of possession time. The Oklahoma had 40 snaps in that ball game. I think outside of that, they averaged somewhere in the vicinity of 85, 90 snaps, something like that. They had 40 snaps they took under the center in that ball game. So, it just limited their opportunities to put points on the board. But the key element is, can you maintain possession of the ball that long? I mean, they had the ball as long as they did. Army did, because they were getting first downs and they were moving the ball. And it's interesting to watch the game because, their gains are 1 yard, 3 yards, 4 yards, 2 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards. I mean, however many snaps they took, I would guess that it's not 100% accurate, but 95% of them were 5 yard or less gains. But they were so consistent about it. Now they run a different style of, the armed services all run, what's the It used to be the wishbone offense, and consequently it's a little different to prepare for. Yeah, they were successful doing it. And you know, Army, the last drive of the game where they go down and have a chance to win it, then they got beat on by throwing the ball, you know, and got an interception. So, yeah, I don't, you know, could we replicate that? I don't know that we have the capacity to do that. No.
With the bye week, maybe have a little bit of a chance to get some guys healthy. I was curious with Alex Delton, is he getting back to the point where he can play again?
He's getting close.
This week, maybe?
Is what?
Could he play this week?
He's getting close.
Coach, this will seem out of left field, but I've been asked this question. I don't know the answer. Is there a reason why nobody wears number 1 on the team, and what's behind that?
Well, you know, and this doesn't reflect on anybody that plays anyplace else, but you know, there isn't a number 1, you know, in our program. Not me, not our coaches, not any of our players. You know, we're all in it collectively together, and it's a team thing.
Thank you.
Oklahoma running back Kennedy Brooks is a redshirt freshman, but put up some good numbers against TCU and earned Big 12 Newcomer of the Week. What have you seen from him on videotape, and what kind of challenge does he present to your rush defense?
Well, you know, they've got a ton of guys they can throw out there, and they're all very good, but I really like Brooks. You know, he's an aggressive runner, he's a hard runner, and yet he has some quickness and change of direction to allow him to, you know, holes are closed up, he can bounce the ball outside, which he does quite a bit. And you, I mean, you better be able to tackle, and because if you don't, he'll embarrass you. I mean, he can run right over the top of you. See that happen time and time again.
So far this season, K-State's allowed just one 300-yard passer, and your 8 interceptions ranked 26th in the FBS, also leading the Big 12, and allowing fewest yards per passing attempt and yards per completion. What kind of job have you been able to do in the pass defense so far this season, Coach?
Well, I think we're improving. You know, if we just get them all, you know, all the right guys out there, that becomes significant. We've had to juggle, you know, players at different positions, and that kind of makes us inconsistent, I guess, is probably the way I view us right now in that regard. But you know, you get all the right ones out there. I think you know, there's improvement that's been made, and yeah, I don't know what else to tell you.
A year ago, Alex had a good day running the football against Oklahoma. Is Skyler the type that could? I mean, he had 80 yards rushing against Oklahoma State. Is he the type that could present a threat against the Sooners in the quarterback run game?
Well, I think he could. You know, Alex had 150 yards last year, and you know, part of it's the system, part of it's him. The same thing applies to Skyler. You know, it might not be, you know, quite as, you know, nifty or have quite as good a change of direction as Alex, but he still, you know, has proven that he can run the ball reasonably well. But, you know, again, you know, they're well aware that we had 150 yards with quarterback run game last year, so you can, although part of it was scrambling, but you can bet they'll have preparation well in hand for that. So.
He seems more than capable of handling it, but when you look down the stat sheet and see that Alex Barnes had 34 carries last week, did that seem high to you in retrospect? And is there any number at the end of the game where you look down and say that's maybe a little bit too much work for somebody?
I don't look at it that way. You know, I just think you do what you have to do, and you know, we needed to do what we did, you know, in order to, you know, to have the chance to, you know, to win the ball game. And And those things, I mean, you don't. We never go into a ball game and say, okay, you're going to carry the ball X number of times. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. That's just not the way it is. But it's kind of the way it played out. And I don't think, you say, is there too much work? Granted, some people, and I'm sure they have the right reasons for doing so, might feel that, they want to put limitations. I've heard people say, he'll carry the ball, 20, 22 times. Well, and I'm sure they have a reason and a good reason for doing it. For me, it just doesn't, I can't equate to that. So you do what you have to do.
Talked about possession time against Oklahoma last week. I think they only gave up 275 yards, but TCU's scoring drives all started, I think, at their own 45 or closer. How big a part does field position also play in that?
Well, it's major, in the ball game, and that's why every aspect of, of your program and your team becomes so significant. I mean, you can, it's kind of one of those things, every inch counts. And, indeed it does, unless somebody is just, making big play after big play after big play, which they have the capacity to do and have done. But, it's, if you, are able to move the ball as well as maintain, if you maintain possession of it, then that takes care of the, if you want to run the clock, that certainly gives you possession time. But, that's a key element. I mean, you've got to be good. You got to be good on any down. Most people talk about being good on third down, but, you say, if you can't convert on third down, you're not going to win ball games. Oklahoma was 0 for 5 or 0 for 6 last week in the first half, and come back and win a ball game. I think it all adds together, and for us, possession time, as I've said before, possession time is important if you're able to get the ball in the end zone. Field position is highly significant because it's, it just goes without saying. We all understand that, it's harder to go 90 yards for a touchdown than it is to go 40. And, your special teams are going to have an awful lot to say about that. Your defense has a lot to say about it, and your offense has a lot to say about it. So it's, field position is truly a team effort.
Dalton Stone was out last week. Will he be available on Saturday?
We think so.
Coach, a couple of questions about Oklahoma's defense. It's hard to not study this team and see Murray and Bolton's tackle numbers. Can you give us a sense of how well those guys are playing and how active they might be?
Well, they're awful active. I mean, they're excellent pass rushers. I think they're 1-2 or 1-3 in the conference, and playing basically playing the same position. So, it tells you they're doing something at that position that is effective in regards to rushing the passer. But they, that aside, and regardless of number of sacks, they really are talented young guys. They've got good range to them, and they've got good quickness, and they're quick off of the ball, and they've got a number of significant moves, if you will, in order to enhance their pass rush, and you have to be prepared for all of them. So it'll be a good matchup with them and Dalton. Yeah.
Are the changes that they've made, if any, are they pretty subtle between Stoops and Ruffin?
From what we've seen, we've only seen one ball game, so that in no way encompasses all the things that they may or may not have in their defensive package. But by and large, it's the same stuff, maybe not quite as much, but very much very same or similar schemes. Yes.
Coach, I don't think we've asked about Mike McCoy for a while. I was just curious how he's handling his situation and maybe what his prognosis is.
Well, there's still some Oh, I wouldn't say uncertainty. There's still some opportunities that we're looking into for his future, but he's handling it pretty well. You know, we've got him with us. He does everything that we do, and got him helping out, and so he's active every day in the program, so, and handling things pretty well.